Imagine the agony of a brilliant mind watching his legacy slip away as a new chapter unfolds for his old partner. That's the gripping emotional core of Richard Linklater's latest film, Blue Moon, where Ethan Hawke delivers a performance that's nothing short of mesmerizing. But here's where it gets intriguing. This isn't just another biopic. It's a poignant exploration of forgotten genius, self-destruction, and the cutthroat world of Broadway. Stick around, because by the end, you might find yourself questioning just how we remember, or forget, the unsung heroes of art. At its heart, the story revolves around lyricist Lorenz Hart, played with raw vulnerability by Ethan Hawke, as he charms the crowd in a bustling New York bar on the night before the premiere of Oklahoma, a groundbreaking musical that heralds the debut of his former collaborator, Richard Rodgers' fresh partnership with lyricist Oscar Hammerstein. This single evening captures Hart's realization that Rodgers' new alliance will etch his immortality into history, while Hart himself is destined to be left in the shadows. For those new to the world of theater, let's break it down a bit. When we think of Richard Rodgers, most people immediately associate him with the legendary duo Rodgers and Hammerstein, the masterminds behind timeless Broadway hits like Oklahoma, South Pacific, The Sound of Music, and The King I. These shows aren't just musicals. They're cultural touchstones that have shaped generations, blending catchy tunes with stories that tackle big themes like love, war, and self-discovery. Yet before teaming up with Hammerstein, Rodgers had a different partner, Lorenz Hart. In their prime, Rodgers and Hart ruled Broadway, churning out hit after hit and becoming so iconic that Hollywood even made a biopic about them called Words and Music back in 1948, well before Hart's untimely death. Tragically, Hart has faded into obscurity over the decades, reduced to a mere footnote in musical theater history. His tale is utterly captivating, though. A diminutive, witty genius plagued by alcoholism and self-sabotage, Hart was a sharp-tongued storyteller whose brilliance was matched only by his inevitable downfall. He passed away at just 48, a fate that shocked few who knew him. In Blue Moon, Linklater zooms in on this tragic figure, turning one fateful night into a spotlight on Hart's inner turmoil as he grapples with the pain of being eclipsed. This film is tailor-made for Ethan Hawke, who brings Hart to life in a way that's both joyful on the surface and achingly sad underneath. If you've seen Hawke in other projects, like his intense roles in prior Linklater films such as Before Trilogy, this might feel like a departure, and it is. He vanishes completely into the character, portraying Hart as a charismatic social butterfly masking profound despair with humor and charm. It's Hawke at his most exposed and heartfelt, making every moment feel like a punch to the gut. Hart himself was an enigma, particularly for the era he lived in. While the film subtly hints at his coded queerness, a way of depicting homosexuality through subtext due to historical censorship, it also delves into his complicated infatuation with a young aspiring actress, Elizabeth, brought to life by the talented Margaret Qualley. Their relationship, along with Hart's bond with Rodgers, forms the backbone of the story. Both use Hart in their own ways. Elizabeth basks in his affection, but openly discusses her crushes, leveraging him to get closer to Rodgers, while Rodgers has evolved beyond their partnership, glowing in a spotlight that no longer includes Hart. Elizabeth comes across as sympathetic, yet calculating, the kind of person Hart, with his inability to forge genuine connections, finds irresistibly toxic. He deflects his pain with jokes, unable to let anyone truly in. His deepest tie is to Rodgers, though it's strained and fraying. Rodgers has moved on, thriving without Hart, and Linklater doesn't paint anyone as a villain. Instead, he shows us why people pull away from Hart. His insatiable need for love and his destructive habits burden those around him, creating a ripple effect of emotional exhaustion. And this is the part most people miss. Linklater crafts the movie like a stage play, keeping everything confined to that single bar location, with characters floating in and out of Hart's world. Standout performances include Bobby Cannavale as a rough-and-ready bartender who unexpectedly becomes Hart's confidant, offering gruff wisdom, and Patrick Kennedy as E.B. White, the famed author battling his own writer's block, a subtle nod to the universal struggles of creativity. That said, Blue Moon might not be an instant crowd pleaser. Many folks have never heard of Rodgers and Hart, and honestly, they might not think it matters. For context, if you're not familiar, Rodgers and Hart were pioneers whose songs, like My Funny Valentine or Blue Moon itself, have become standards that pop up in everything from movies to modern music covers. I confess, I wasn't well versed in their story before watching, but Linklater's masterful direction and Hawke's captivating portrayal pulled me right in, making the film's themes accessible even to newcomers. It's far more approachable than Linklater's upcoming Nouvelle Vague, which dives deeper into experimental filmmaking. Blue Moon deserves a spot alongside Hawke's finest efforts, and it's about time the Academy gives him the recognition he deserves. Remember, he was shockingly overlooked for First Reformed, a film where his performance was equally transformative. Even if you're not a fan of show tunes or Broadway lore, I urge you to give Blue Moon a chance. You could be pleasantly surprised and deeply moved, but here's where it gets controversial. Does the film's portrayal of Hart's sexuality and relationships accurately reflect the man? Or does it risk oversimplifying the complexities of queer identity in mid-20th century America? And what about Rodgers' decision to move on? Was it betrayal or just the natural progression of careers? Do you think Hart's tragic story deserves more spotlight in Hollywood, or is it right that he remains a footnote? How do we decide who gets remembered in the ever-evolving history of art? Share your views in the comments. Do you agree, disagree, or have a different take? Let's discuss.